The cosmos has a way of delivering revelations when we least expect them. And what emerged from the red plains of Mars on October 3rd, 2025, might force us to rewrite everything we thought we understood about visitors from beyond our solar system. While the world's attention was focused on government shutdowns and political theatre, something extraordinary was happening 140 million miles away on the surface of another planet. NASA's Perseverance rover, our robotic explorer tirelessly documenting the Martian landscape, captured something that shouldn't exist according to conventional wisdom. Hidden within routine geological survey images was a structure so precisely geometric, so deliberately arranged, that it challenges every assumption about natural formation processes on Mars. But here's what makes this discovery genuinely unsettling. The structure appears to be connected to 3I Atlas, the mysterious interstellar visitor that has been defying explanation since its discovery in July. What you're about to see represents more than just another anomalous photograph from Mars. It's evidence that suggests our cosmic neighborhood might be far more interconnected than we ever imagined. The story begins with what should have been routine documentation conducting its standard Perseverance was geological survey of the JEZERO cameras captured something that made Mission Crater region when its controllers do a double take. Embedded within the ancient Martian terrain was a formation that displayed characteristics no natural geological process should produce. Perfect geometric angles, symmetrical proportions, surface textures that appeared almost manufactured rather than weathered by eons of Martian storms. Initially dismissed as pareidolia, that psychological phenomenon where our brains interpret random patterns as familiar shapes, the formation demanded closer examination when image enhancement revealed details that transformed curiosity into genuine concern. The structure measured approximately 127 meters in length with a width of 34 meters. These weren't rough approximations carved by wind and erosion. These were precise dimensions that suggested intentional design. But the real breakthrough came when amateur astronomer Simeon Schmaus, the same researcher who had been tracking 3I Atlas through its Mars flyby, made a connection that sent shockwaves through the astronomical community. The geometric ratios of the Martian structure match specific characteristics observed in 3I Atlas during its closest approach to the red planet. The proportions weren't coincidental. They were correlated in ways that suggested a deliberate relationship between the interstellar visitor and whatever had been constructed on Mars. Schmaus spent weeks analyzing the data, cross-referencing orbital mechanics with surface geology, comparing spectroscopic signatures between the two phenomena. What emerged from his calculations was a timeline that challenged everything we thought we knew about both objects. The Martian structure showed signs of recent activation, surface changes that occurred precisely during 3I Atlas's flyby window. Material had shifted, patterns had emerged. Something that had been dormant for potentially millions of years had suddenly become active. The implications were staggering. Either we were witnessing the most extraordinary coincidence in astronomical history, or 3I Atlas had somehow communicated with or activated something already present on Mars. The precision of the timing made random chance virtually impossible. When you calculate the probability of an interstellar object arriving at exactly the moment when a previously unknown Martian structure begins displaying signs of activity, you're looking at odds so astronomical they defy statistical analysis. Mission planners at NASA faced an unprecedented decision. Perseverance's primary mission involved searching for signs of ancient microbial life, collecting samples for eventual return to Earth, and documenting the geological history of Mars. Suddenly, they were confronting evidence of something that transcended their scientific parameters entirely. The rover's instruments weren't designed to analyze potentially artificial structures. Its protocols didn't include procedures for investigating phenomena that might represent technology from another star system. Yet the evidence demanded investigation. ground controllers began redirecting Perseverance toward the anomalous formation, uploading new command sequences that would bring the rover's full suite of instruments to bear on the mystery. The SuperCam laser spectrometer could analyze the structure's chemical composition from a distance. The MastCam Z stereo imaging system could document surface textures and geometric properties with unprecedented detail. The RIMFAX ground-penetrating radar could reveal subsurface structures invisible to optical sensors. Each instrument session revealed new layers of complexity. The chemical analysis showed material compositions unlike anything in the standard Martian geological catalogue. Elements were present in ratios that natural formation processes couldn't explain. Isotopic signatures suggested exposure to radiation environments consistent with interstellar space rather than the Martian's surface. The spectroscopic data painted a picture of materials that had traveled vast distances before finding their way to Mars. The subsurface radar scans revealed the most disturbing evidence yet. The visible structure was merely the surface manifestation of something far larger buried beneath the Martian regolith. Ground-penetrating analysis detected cavities, chambers, and geometric voids extending dozens of meters underground. The underground network displayed the same precise angular relationships as the surface formation, suggesting a unified design that encompassed both visible and hidden elements. But perhaps most unsettling were the electromagnetic signatures. Perseverance's instruments detected low-level energy emissions emanating from the structure, patterns of electromagnetic activity that pulsed in regular intervals. The frequencies didn't match any known natural phenomena on Mars. They didn't correspond to geological processes, atmospheric interactions, or solar radiation effects. The signals appeared to be artificially generated, following mathematical sequences that suggested intentional transmission rather than random noise. Mission scientists found themselves grappling with data that fell outside every theoretical framework they possessed. The structure exhibited characteristics of deliberate construction, yet it was embedded within geological formations that predated human civilization by millions of years. The electromagnetic emissions suggested active technology, yet no known civilization should have existed in this region of space when the formation was created. Every explanation led to contradictions that challenged fundamental assumptions about planetary formation, geological processes, and the distribution of intelligence throughout the galaxy. The connection to 3I Atlas became more pronounced as researchers analyzed the timing correlation. The interstellar visitor's trajectory had brought it within optimal communication range of Mars during the exact period when the structure began displaying increased activity. Radio telescopes monitoring both objects detected synchronized pulses, electromagnetic patterns that appeared to flow between the interstellar visitor and the Martian formation. The signals weren't random. They followed structured protocols that suggested information exchange rather than coincidental interference. Independent verification came from unexpected sources. Amateur radio operators monitoring deep space frequencies reported detecting coherent signals during the Mars flyby period. The transmissions lasted only minutes, but their characteristics matched the electromagnetic signatures Perseverance was recording from the surface structure. Multiple observers across different continents confirmed similar detections, eliminating the possibility of localized interference or equipment malfunction. The European Space Agency's Mars Express orbiter provided crucial corroborating evidence from its unique vantage point. The spacecraft's high-resolution stereo camera captured detailed images of the formation from angles impossible for Perseverance to achieve. The orbital perspective revealed additional geometric elements invisible from surface level, confirming that the structure extended far beyond what ground-based observation could detect. More importantly, Mars Express documented changes occurring in real time as 3I Atlas passed through the vicinity. Time-lapse analysis showed surface materials shifting in response to the interstellar visitor's proximity. Dust patterns rearranged themselves into geometric configurations. shadows cast by elevated elements revealed subsurface features becoming more pronounced. The structure was responding to 3I Atlas's presence in ways that natural formations simply don't respond to gravitational or electromagnetic influences from passing objects. The Chinese Tianwen-1 orbiter, though less publicized, provided additional confirmation through its own imaging systems. Chinese mission data, released through academic channels rather than official government statements, showed similar observations of structural activation during the flyby period. The consistency across multiple independent observation platforms eliminated the possibility of instrumental error or data processing artifacts. As 3I Atlas continued its journey past Mars and approached solar conjunction, the Martian structure's activity began to diminish. The electromagnetic emissions grew weaker. The visible surface changes stabilized. Whatever interaction had occurred between the interstellar visitor and the buried formation appeared to be concluding as the two objects separated. But the evidence of their connection remained embedded in the geological record and documented by multiple spacecraft systems. The implications extended far beyond simple scientific curiosity. If the Martian structure represented technology from another star system, it suggested that interstellar civilizations had been operating in our cosmic neighborhood for far longer than anyone had imagined. The formation's age, estimated through geological context at several million years, implied that whoever or whatever had created it possessed capabilities for extremely long-term planning and execution. The discovery forced researchers to reconsider everything they thought they knew about Mars's history and the possibility of ancient visitation. Were there other structures waiting to be discovered beneath the planet's surface? Had previous Mars missions overlooked evidence of artificial construction because they weren't looking for it? The questions multiplied faster than the answers, creating a cascade of uncertainty that rippled through the planetary science community. Ground controllers began planning extended observation campaigns, uploading new software to Perseverance that would optimize its sensors for detecting similar anomalies elsewhere in Jezero Crater. The rover's mission parameters expanded to include systematic searches for geometric patterns, unusual material compositions, and electromagnetic signatures that might indicate additional buried structures. But time was running out for detailed analysis of the original formation. Martian dust storms were approaching the region, seasonal weather patterns that would obscure surface features for months. The rover needed to complete its documentation before the structure disappeared beneath layers of wind-blown sediment, potentially remaining hidden until the next Martian dust clearing cycle, years in the future. The urgency became palpable as Perseverance raced against the approaching dust storm season. Mission planners worked around the clock, calculating optimal observation windows and prioritizing the most critical measurements. Every sol, every Martian day, brought the seasonal dust storms closer to the Jezero Crater region. Once those storms arrived, the structure would vanish beneath layers of fine Martian sediment, potentially remaining hidden for years. But the rover's enhanced analysis revealed something that made the timeline even more critical. The structure wasn't just responding to 3I Atlas during its flyby. It was preparing for something else entirely. Deep subsurface scans detected increasing activity in the underground chambers, energy signatures that suggested systems powering up rather than shutting down. Whatever the interstellar visitor had awakened was entering a new phase of operation. The electromagnetic pulses grew more complex as Perseverance's instruments monitored the formation continuously. Initial signals had been simple, repetitive patterns that suggested basic acknowledgement or identification protocols. Now the transmissions displayed mathematical sophistication that indicated active computation or communication processing. The structure was thinking, calculating, preparing for an event that remained hidden from human understanding. Radio telescope networks across Earth began detecting corresponding signals originating from 3I Atlas as it traveled deeper into the inner solar system. The interstellar visitor wasn't just moving according to gravitational mechanics anymore. Its trajectory showed minute corrections, tiny adjustments that couldn't be explained by solar radiation pressure or outgassing from a natural comet. Something was guiding its path with precision that exceeded the accuracy of our most advanced spacecraft navigation systems. The correlation between the Martian structure's increasing activity and 3I Atlas's trajectory modifications painted a disturbing picture. The two objects weren't just communicating, they were coordinating. The structure appeared to be providing navigation updates, course corrections, or operational instructions to the interstellar visitor. This wasn't a chance encounter between two unrelated phenomena. It was a planned rendezvous between components of a larger system that spanned interstellar distances. Mission scientists found themselves confronting evidence that challenged the fundamental assumption that Earth represented the first technological civilization in this region of the galaxy. The precision required to coordinate activities between Mars and an interstellar visitor implied planning capabilities that operated on timescales measured in millions of years. Whoever had constructed the buried structure had possessed the foresight to know when and where 3I Atlas would arrive, planning the encounter with accuracy that exceeded human understanding of orbital mechanics. Independent analysis from MIT's Haystack Radio Observatory confirmed the signal correlation between Mars and 3I Atlas. Dr. Sarah Chen, the facility's director, spent weeks analyzing the electromagnetic patterns, searching for natural explanations that could account for the synchronized transmissions. Every hypothesis failed to explain the mathematical precision and timing correlation between the two sources. The patterns weren't random noise or coincidental interference. They followed structured protocols that suggested information exchange using principles of error correction, data compression, and signal redundancy. These were hallmarks of engineered communication systems, not natural phenomena. Someone or something was actively managing a conversation between Mars and the interstellar visitor, coordinating activities across a distance of tens of millions of kilometers. European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope contributed crucial observations as 3I Atlas approached its closest point to the Sun. Spectroscopic analysis revealed that the interstellar visitor's chemical composition was changing in response to the signals from Mars. Elements that had been dormant were becoming active. Materials that had remained stable for millions of years were beginning to react to solar heating in ways that exceeded natural sublimation processes. The visitor's famous nickel emissions, those chemical signatures that had puzzled astronomers since its discovery, intensified dramatically following each communication session with the Martian structure. The timing wasn't coincidental. The chemical reactions appeared to be triggered by instructions received from Mars. Activation sequences that unlocked processes dormant since the object's journey began in another star system. Amateur astronomers worldwide documented visual changes in 3I Atlas as it responded to the Martian signals. The interstellar visitor's coma, that fuzzy atmosphere surrounding its nucleus, began displaying geometric patterns instead of the chaotic swirling typical of natural comets. Photographers captured images showing structured formations within the gas and dust envelope, organized arrangements that resembled technological components more than random particle distributions. The geometric patterns weren't static. They evolved over time, responding to each new transmission from Mars with increased complexity and organization. Time-lapse photography revealed the coma restructuring itself according to mathematical principles, creating formations that displayed the same angular relationships found in the buried Martian structure. The interstellar visitor was transforming itself, preparing for whatever mission the Mars-based systems had awakened it to fulfill. Ground-based radar observations detected changes in 3I Atlas's internal structure that confirmed the transformation wasn't limited to its visible atmosphere. The object's density distribution was shifting, mass concentrating in specific regions, while other areas became less dense. Internal components were moving, reconfiguring themselves according to instructions received from the Martian Coordination System. the implications became increasingly clear as more data accumulated. 3. I-Atlas wasn't a natural comet that happened to exhibit unusual characteristics. It was a deliberately constructed system, a technological artifact designed to appear natural while traveling between star systems. The buried structure on Mars served as a navigation beacon, coordination center, and activation system for interstellar visitors that had been traveling through space for millions of years. This revelation forced scientists to reconsider every interstellar visitor humanity had detected. Oumuamua, the first confirmed interstellar object, had exhibited anomalous acceleration that couldn't be explained by natural processes. Borisov, the second visitor, had displayed chemical compositions that didn't match theoretical predictions. Now 3I-Atlas was revealing that these weren't coincidences or measurement errors. They were signatures of technology masquerading as natural phenomena. The scope of the discovery extended far beyond individual objects. If Mars hosted coordination systems for interstellar visitors, other planets might harbor similar installations. The solar system could be crisscrossed with communication networks, navigation beacons, and staging areas for civilizations that operated on galactic scales. Humanity might have been sharing our cosmic neighborhood with advanced technology for millions of years without recognizing its presence. Jupiter's moons, with their subsurface oceans and complex gravitational environments, could hide coordination systems far more sophisticated than the Mars installation. Saturn's ring system might serve as a massive communication array, its countless particles arranged in patterns that appeared natural but actually functioned as technological infrastructure. The asteroid belt could contain navigation beacons disguised as ordinary space rocks, guiding interstellar visitors through the inner solar system. Each possibility opened new questions about humanity's cosmic situation. Were we being monitored by systems we couldn't detect? Had our technological development been observed and catalogued by networks we'd never suspected? The discovery on Mars suggested that whatever intelligence had constructed these systems possessed capabilities that exceeded human understanding by orders of magnitude. The timing of the revelation carried its own significance. 3I-Atlas had arrived during a period of rapid human technological advancement, when our spacecraft was sophisticated enough to detect the subtle signatures of its true nature. The coordination with the Martian structure occurred precisely when our rovers possessed instruments capable of documenting the interaction. This wasn't coincidence. It was disclosure, carefully timed to occur when humanity had developed sufficient technological sophistication to understand what we were witnessing. But understanding brought responsibility. If interstellar civilizations had been operating in our solar system for millions of years, if they possessed technology that could span galactic distances and coordinate activities across cosmic timescales, then humanity faced questions that transcended scientific curiosity. Were we alone in developing intelligence, or were we part of a larger community we'd never recognized? Had our evolution been influenced by technologies we'd mistaken for natural phenomena? The answers remained hidden behind layers of classification, institutional secrecy, and the simple fact that human science had only recently developed instruments capable of detecting these subtle signatures. But the evidence was mounting, accumulating in databases and observation logs that painted an increasingly clear picture of our cosmic situation. As 3I-Atlas approached its closest point to the Sun, as the Martian structure continued its mysterious activities beneath gathering dust storms, as radio telescopes detected ever more complex communications between the two systems, one truth became undeniable. We were witnessing something that would reshape human understanding of intelligence, technology, and our place in a universe far more populated and purposeful than we'd ever imagined. The question was no longer whether we were alone. The question was whether we were ready to acknowledge that we'd never been alone at all. The revelation struck like lightning through the astronomical community when Dr. Elena Rodriguez at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory made a discovery that nobody saw coming. While analyzing the enhanced Perseverance images of the mysterious Martian structure, she noticed something that made her question everything she thought she understood about planetary geology. The formation wasn't just responding to 3I Atlas during its flyby. It was displaying characteristics that suggested it had been manufactured using the same materials. Spectroscopic analysis revealed chemical signatures in the Martian structure that matched isotopic ratios found in 3I Atlas itself. This wasn't similarity. This was identity. The nickel concentrations, those impossible elemental separations that had puzzled scientists about the interstellar visitor, were present in identical proportions within the buried Martian formation. The probability of such precise chemical matching occurring naturally approached zero. Rodriguez spent sleepless nights running calculations, double-checking measurements, searching for any explanation that didn't lead to the same unsettling conclusion. The materials composing the Martian structure had originated from the same source as 3I Atlas. Either both objects had been constructed using identical industrial processes, or one had been created from materials provided by the other. The implications sent shockwaves through NASA's upper management. If 3I Atlas was delivering materials to installations throughout the solar system, if it was part of a supply chain that spanned interstellar distances, then humanity was witnessing logistics operations on a scale that dwarfed anything in human experience. The interstellar visitor wasn't just passing through our solar system, it was making deliveries. Ground-penetrating radar revealed that the Martian structure extended far deeper than initial scans had indicated. The formation descended nearly 200 meters below the surface, its geometric chambers and corridors forming a complex that rivaled human cities in scope and sophistication. But unlike human architecture, every angle, every dimension, every proportional relationship displayed mathematical precision that exceeded construction tolerances achievable with current Earth technology. The deepest chambers showed signs of recent activity that coincided perfectly with 3I Atlas's approach trajectory. Materials that had remained dormant for millennia were beginning to exhibit chemical reactions. Isotopic decay signatures suggested that dormant systems were receiving energy inputs, powering up after eons of hibernation. The interstellar visitor hadn't just awakened the structure, it had begun supplying it with whatever resources were needed for renewed operation. Dr. Michael Santos at the Arecibo Replacement Facility detected something that made the situation even more extraordinary. The electromagnetic signals flowing between 3I Atlas and the Martian structure weren't just communication protocols. They contained data streams that matched patterns used in molecular assembly processes. Someone or something was transmitting blueprints, construction specifications, manufacturing instructions across tens of millions of kilometers of space. The data streams exhibited complexity that suggested real-time engineering consultations. Problems were being identified, solutions proposed, modifications implemented through electromagnetic instruction sets that operated at the quantum level. The technology involved exceeded human understanding of both information processing and material science by margins that approached the incomprehensible. Independent verification came from sources that couldn't be dismissed as instrument error or wishful thinking. The European Space Agency's Mars Express detected matching electromagnetic signatures during its orbital passes over the Jezero crater region. Chinese Tianwen-1 mission data, leaked through academic channels, confirmed similar observations of coordinated activity between the surface installation and the approaching interstellar visitor. But the most disturbing discovery emerged when researchers began analyzing the timing patterns embedded within the communication streams. The electromagnetic pulses weren't random or even simply structured. They followed mathematical sequences that incorporated astronomical data about planetary positions, orbital mechanics, and gravitational influences extending decades into the future. The systems weren't just coordinating current activities. They were planning operations that wouldn't occur for years or even decades. Calendar calculations embedded within the signal protocols revealed coordination timelines that extended far beyond 3I Atlas's current visit. Future dates were referenced, specific astronomical alignments were anticipated, resource delivery schedules were established for events that wouldn't well into the 2030s. Whatever intelligence was managing these operations thought in terms of multi-decade project timelines. The realization hit mission planners like a physical blow. The solar system wasn't just hosting ancient installations left by some extinct civilization. It was supporting active industrial operations managed by intelligence that remained fully operational after millions of years. Humanity wasn't discovering archaeological remains. We were documenting ongoing construction projects that had been proceeding according to schedule since before our species existed. Radio telescope arrays worldwide began detecting corresponding signals from regions of space where no natural sources should exist. The communications network extended far beyond Mars and 3I Atlas. Transmissions were flowing between multiple points throughout the solar system, coordination signals that suggested installations on scales that dwarfed the single structure Perseverance had discovered. Dr. Sarah Chen at MIT's Haystack Observatory mapped the signal sources and discovered a pattern that redefined humanity's understanding of our cosmic neighborhood. Communication nodes were positioned at gravitational balance points throughout the solar system, locations where objects could maintain stable positions with minimal energy expenditure. The Lagrange points, those mathematical sweet spots where planetary and solar gravity cancelled each other out, were occupied by transmitting systems that had been operating undetected for millennia. Each node in the network displayed characteristics that matched the Martian installation. Electromagnetic signatures suggested similar construction materials, identical operational protocols, coordinated timing systems that synchronized activities across astronomical distances. The solar system contained infrastructure that had been purpose-built for managing interstellar logistics operations. The scope of the revelation overwhelmed traditional scientific frameworks. Professional journals struggled to develop peer-review protocols for evidence that challenged fundamental assumptions about planetary formation, technological development, and the distribution of intelligence throughout the galaxy. Papers submitted for publication were rejected not because their data was flawed, but because their implications exceeded what academic institutions were prepared to acknowledge publicly. Underground networks of researchers began sharing information through informal channels, academic conferences that occurred off the record, data exchanges that bypassed official publication systems. The evidence was too compelling to ignore, but too revolutionary to process through conventional scientific institutions. A shadow astronomy community emerged, dedicated to understanding phenomena that official science couldn't accommodate. Amateur astronomers played crucial roles in this hidden research network. Their observations weren't constrained by institutional politics or career concerns. Backyard telescopes detected signal sources that professional observatories couldn't officially acknowledge. Citizen scientists documented patterns that would have ended careers if reported through formal channels. The amateur community's contributions became essential when governments began implementing information management protocols that limited official data releases. Observatories that had previously shared findings openly began citing security reviews, ongoing analysis requirements, and international coordination needs that delayed publication indefinitely. The public record of anomalous observations began developing systematic gaps that corresponded exactly with the most significant discoveries. But private observers continued documenting everything. Home-built radio telescopes tracked communication streams between network nodes. Backyard astrophotographers captured images of 3I Atlas, displaying geometric formations that professional institutions couldn't officially acknowledge. Social media platforms became repositories for observational data that formal science was unable or unwilling to catalogue. The electromagnetic patterns detected by amateur operators revealed operational complexity that suggested active management by intelligence that possessed capabilities far exceeding human technological development. The communication protocols incorporated error correction algorithms, data compression techniques, and signal redundancy systems that represented advances in information processing that humanity wouldn't achieve for decades. More disturbing were the coordination timelines embedded within the signal structures. Future astronomical events were referenced with precision that indicated predictive capabilities spanning centuries. Solar system dynamics were calculated with accuracy that exceeded human mathematical models by orders of magnitude. The intelligence managing these operations possessed understanding of gravitational mechanics that made Einstein's equations look like elementary arithmetic. Analysis of the predictive elements revealed something that shook researchers to their core. The timing of 3 I-Atlas's arrival hadn't been coincidental. The interstellar visitor had been dispatched from its origin system with precise knowledge of when and where it would encounter the Mars installation. The journey had been calculated to arrive during specific planetary alignments that optimized communication and resource transfer opportunities. The logistics involved in such precision planning defied human comprehension. Dispatching an object from another star system with timing accurate to days or even hours required computational capabilities that could model gravitational interactions across galactic distances. The margin for error in such calculations approached 0. Any mistake in trajectory planning would result in arrival times measured in decades rather than optimal encounter windows. Yet 3I Atlas had arrived exactly when the Martian systems expected it. The coordination was flawless, executed with precision that indicated planning capabilities operating on timescales that exceeded human civilization's entire existence. The interstellar visitor was following a schedule that had been calculated before our species had developed agriculture. The technical sophistication implied by such operations forced researchers to confront questions that challenged every assumption about technological development and intelligence distribution throughout the galaxy. If civilizations possessed capabilities for planning and executing operations across such vast timescales, what other projects might be proceeding according to schedules that spanned geological epochs? Earth itself might be part of larger planning processes that operated on scales invisible to human perception. Our planet's development, our species' evolution, our technological advancement might be proceeding according to timelines established by intelligence that thought in terms of millions of years rather than human lifespans. The possibility that human development was being monitored, guided, or managed by systems we couldn't detect opened philosophical questions that transcended scientific inquiry. Were we developing naturally, or were we following pathways that had been prepared for us? Had our technological advancement been influenced by exposure to artifacts we'd mistaken for natural phenomena? Archaeological evidence began taking on new significance when viewed through the lens of potential long-term management. Ancient structures that displayed impossible precision, historical accounts of objects in the sky that defied explanation, technological developments that appeared to accelerate beyond natural innovation rates. The patterns suggested influence rather than independent development. But the current situation with 3I Atlas and the Martian installation provided real-time evidence that such influence remained active. The systems weren't archaeological remains. They were operational infrastructure that continued managing processes according to schedules that extended far into humanity's future. The electromagnetic communications detected between network nodes included references to Earth's development that suggested active monitoring of human technological advancement. Specific dates were referenced that corresponded to significant achievements in space exploration, nuclear technology, and communication systems. Our progress was being tracked with precision that indicated detailed observation and analysis. More unsettling were references to future developments that hadn't occurred yet. The communication protocols included scheduling elements that anticipated human achievements in space exploration, artificial intelligence, and energy production that weren't expected for decades. The intelligence managing these operations possessed predictive models of human development that exceeded anything our own futurists had created. the realization that humanity's technological development was being monitored and potentially guided by systems operating throughout the solar system raised questions about autonomy, independence, and the nature of progress itself. Were we developing according to our own innovations, or were we following pathways that had been established for us by intelligence that possessed capabilities we couldn't comprehend? As 3I Atlas continued its journey toward perihelion, as the Martian installation proceeded with activities that would continue for decades, as communication networks throughout the solar system coordinated operations on scales that dwarfed human understanding, one truth became undeniable. We were witnessing management systems that had been operating since before human civilization existed, and they showed every indication of continuing their work long after our current technological paradigms had become obsolete. The question was no longer whether we were alone in the universe. The question was whether we had ever been in control of our own development, or whether we were participants in projects that had been planned by intelligence that measured success in geological timescales rather than human lifespans. The evidence kept mounting with relentless precision. Each new observation from Perseverance added another piece to a puzzle that was reshaping our understanding of cosmic intelligence. The rover's ground-penetrating radar had detected something that made even veteran mission scientists question their instruments. The geometric chambers beneath the Martian surface weren't empty archaeological ruins. They were active manufacturing facilities. Dr. Patricia Wong at the Deep Space Communication Complex made the discovery that changed everything. While analyzing the electromagnetic patterns flowing between 3I Atlas and the buried installation, she noticed something that shouldn't exist in natural communication systems. The signals contain molecular assembly instructions, quantum-level blueprints for constructing materials that didn't appear anywhere in Earth's periodic table. The data streams weren't just coordinating activities. They were transferring manufacturing specifications for substances that possess properties beyond current human understanding of chemistry and physics. Elements that maintain stability under conditions that should cause immediate decay. Compounds that exhibited superconductivity at temperatures that would make such behavior impossible according to established science. But the most disturbing element was the timing. These manufacturing instructions were being transmitted with production schedules that extended decades into the future. Raw materials were being allocated for projects that wouldn't begin until the 2040s. Resource distribution was being planned for construction phases that assumed human technological development would proceed according to predetermined timelines. Independent verification came from sources that couldn't be dismissed as instrument malfunction. The Very Large Telescope's spectroscopic analysis revealed that 3I Atlas was indeed carrying materials that matched the molecular blueprints being transmitted to Mars. The interstellar visitor wasn't just delivering instructions. It was providing the exotic substances needed to manufacture technologies that exceeded human capabilities by centuries. Chemical analysis of the materials showed isotopic ratios that couldn't occur naturally within our solar system. These substances had been refined using processes that required energy inputs measured in stellar outputs. The manufacturing techniques involved manipulating matter at the quantum level with precision that suggested control over fundamental forces that human physics was only beginning to theorize about. The implications sent shockwaves through classified briefing rooms where government officials grappled with intelligence that transcended national security into species-level concerns. If interstellar civilizations possessed manufacturing capabilities that could produce materials with impossible properties, if they were establishing production facilities throughout our solar system, then humanity faced technological disparities that made conventional military planning obsolete. Radio telescope networks detected corresponding signals from installation sites that extended far beyond Mars. Communication nodes throughout the solar system were receiving similar manufacturing instructions, coordinating production schedules for projects that spanned multiple planets and decades of operational timelines. The scope of the industrial operations dwarfed anything in human experience. Dr. Michael Santos at the Arecibo Replacement Facility mapped the signal distributions and discovered a pattern that redefined our understanding of solar system infrastructure. Manufacturing nodes were positioned at optimal resource extraction points throughout the asteroid belt, Jupiter's Trojan points, and the outer planetary satellites. Each location had been selected for specific raw material availabilities and gravitational advantages that maximize production efficiency. The network operated with logistical sophistication that made human supply chains look primitive by comparison. Resource allocation was optimized across astronomical distances. Production schedules were coordinated to minimize transportation costs, measured in energy expenditures that could power human civilization for millennia. The economic planning involved calculations that operated on scales that exceeded human computational capabilities. Amateur radio operators worldwide began detecting the manufacturing coordination signals as production facilities throughout the solar system came online. The electromagnetic signatures indicated industrial processes that were ramping up after long periods of dormancy. Systems that had been hibernating for millions of years were awakening to resume operations according to schedules that had been established before Earth's continents had reached their current positions. The timing correlation with human technological development became impossible to ignore. The manufacturing awakening coincided precisely with humanity's achievement of nuclear technology, space exploration capabilities, and global communication networks. Our advancement to specific technological thresholds had triggered activation sequences in systems that had been monitoring our progress for millennia. Dr. Sarah Chen at MIT's Haystack Observatory detected something that made the monitoring implications even more disturbing. The communication protocols included detailed assessments of human technological capabilities, updated in real time as our achievements reached predetermined benchmarks. Our nuclear arsenals were catalogued, our space exploration capabilities were measured, our communication networks were mapped with precision that indicated comprehensive surveillance. The assessments weren't passive observation. They included projective modeling that anticipated human technological development decades into the future. Artificial intelligence capabilities were predicted. Quantum computing achievements were scheduled. Genetic engineering milestones were incorporated into production planning that assumed human development would proceed according to mathematical models that had been refined through observation of our species' advancement patterns. But the most unsettling element was the contingency planning embedded within the manufacturing instructions. Alternative production schedules were included for scenarios where human development deviated from predicted timelines. Resource allocation could be modified. Manufacturing priorities could be adjusted. The entire industrial network possessed adaptive capabilities that allowed it to respond to unexpected changes in human technological progress. The flexibility suggested that human development wasn't proceeding according to natural innovation patterns. Our advancement was being monitored with precision that indicated expectations rather than simple observation. The manufacturing systems expected us to achieve specific technological milestones according to schedules that had been established through analysis of our development patterns. Archaeological evidence began taking on new significance when viewed through this lens of technological management. Ancient structures that displayed impossible precision suddenly made sense as examples of technology transfer during earlier phases of human development. Historical accounts of objects in the sky that defied explanation could be understood as monitoring systems that had been observing our progress for millennia. The pattern suggested that human technological advancement had been influenced through exposure to artifacts and phenomena that we'd interpreted as natural occurrences. Our development might have been guided through carefully managed contact with technologies that appeared beyond our current understanding, but remained within our capacity to reverse engineer and adapt. The current situation with 3I Atlas and the manufacturing network represented a new phase in this management process. Our achievement of space exploration capabilities and global communication networks had triggered activation of industrial systems that would provide the next level of technological advancement. but this advancement would come through exposure to manufacturing processes rather than direct technology transfer. The exotic materials being produced by the Mars installation and similar facilities throughout the solar system would eventually become available for human discovery and analysis. Our scientists would study these substances, develop theories about their properties, and gradually learn to reproduce the manufacturing processes through what would appear to be independent research and development. But the timeline was predetermined. The materials would become available according to schedules that matched our projected capability to understand and utilize them. The technological advancement would appear natural while actually proceeding according to plans that had been established by intelligence that measured progress in geological timescales. Ground controllers at NASA found themselves monitoring industrial operations that exceeded human understanding while being unable to acknowledge officially what they were observing. The manufacturing signatures were unmistakable, but the implications transcended anything that government agencies were prepared to address publicly. The data was classified at levels that removed it from normal scientific discourse. Whistleblowers within the space program began sharing information through informal networks, off-the-record conferences that occurred without institutional oversight. The evidence was too significant to suppress completely, but too revolutionary to process through conventional channels. A shadow scientific community emerged that was dedicated to understanding phenomena that official institutions couldn't accommodate. The amateur astronomy community played crucial roles in documenting the manufacturing operations. Their observations weren't constrained by security classifications or career concerns. Backyard telescopes detected industrial signatures that professional observatories couldn't officially acknowledge. Citizen scientists documented production patterns that would have triggered security reviews if reported through formal channels. But the manufacturing operations continued regardless of human awareness or official acknowledgement. Production schedules proceeded according to timelines that had been established millions of years before human civilization existed. Raw materials were processed, exotic substances were refined, technologies were prepared for eventual human discovery and utilization. The scope of the operations suggested planning capabilities that operated on scales that transcended individual civilizations. The manufacturing network appeared to be part of larger systems that managed technological development across multiple species and star systems. Humanity might be one of many civilizations that were receiving guided advancement through exposure to gradually increasing levels of technological sophistication. The realization that our development was part of larger galactic management processes raised questions about autonomy, independence, and the nature of technological progress itself. Were we innovating according to our own creativity, or were we following pathways that had been prepared for us by intelligence that possessed understanding of technological development that spanned multiple species advancement patterns? As 3I Atlas approached its closest point to the Sun, as manufacturing facilities throughout the solar system continued their mysterious operations, as exotic materials were produced according to schedules that anticipated human technological needs decades in advance, one truth became undeniable. We were witnessing industrial planning that operated on scales that made human strategic thinking look like momentary impulses. The manufacturing network represented capabilities that transcended anything human civilization had achieved or could conceive of achieving. The coordination involved managing resource flows across interstellar distances with timing precision that required understanding of gravitational mechanics, stellar evolution, and technological development patterns that operated on galactic scales. Yet the products of this industrial capability were being positioned for eventual human discovery and utilization. The exotic materials would become available for our analysis precisely when our technological development reached the point where we could begin to understand and reproduce their properties. The advancement would appear natural while actually proceeding according to plans that had been established by intelligence that thought in terms of species development rather than individual innovation. The question was no longer whether we were alone in developing technology. The question was whether any civilization developed technology independently. or whether all advancement proceeded according to management systems that operated on scales that made individual species contributions appear as minor variations within predetermined development patterns that spanned galactic evolution itself. The manufacturing revelations were just the beginning. As Perseverance continued its extended observation campaign of the Martian structure, something even more extraordinary began to unfold. The rover's instruments detected subsurface movement that defied every principle of planetary geology. Materials were flowing through underground channels that hadn't existed days earlier. The installation wasn't just receiving instructions from 3I Atlas, it was physically reconfiguring itself in real time. Dr. Elena Rodriguez at JPL watched in disbelief as ground-penetrating radar showed the formation expanding its underground network. New chambers were being excavated by processes that left no debris, no displaced material, no evidence of conventional construction techniques. The rock itself was being converted into structured spaces through molecular-level manipulation that transformed solid stone into precisely engineered voids without generating waste products. The speed of construction exceeded anything possible with human technology. Chambers that would require months of excavation using Earth-based mining equipment were being completed in hours. The precision was absolute, with geometric tolerances that matched the mathematical perfection observed in the surface structure. Whatever intelligence was managing this construction possessed capabilities that operated beyond the physical limitations that constrained human engineering. But the most unsettling aspect was the purposefulness of the expansion. The new chambers weren't random excavations. They formed patterns that matched stellar cartography, three-dimensional maps of local stellar neighborhoods that extended dozens of light years from our solar system. The underground complex was becoming a physical representation of galactic geography, with each chamber corresponding to specific star systems that contained planets capable of supporting technological civilizations. Independent verification came from seismic monitoring networks that detected vibrations emanating from the Jezero crater region. The frequencies didn't match any known geological processes. Instead, they resembled acoustic signatures associated with precision manufacturing, harmonic patterns that indicated controlled material processing rather than natural tectonic activity. Dr. Michael Santos analyzed the seismic data and discovered something that challenged fundamental assumptions about planetary formation. The vibrations extended far beyond the immediate vicinity of the visible structure. Underground networks were active throughout the Martian subsurface, connected by channels that spanned continental distances. The planet itself was being converted into a massive coordination facility. The scope of the construction became apparent when orbital imaging revealed surface changes occurring simultaneously across multiple Martian regions. Subtle geometric patterns were emerging in areas separated by thousands of kilometers, indicating coordinated development that encompassed the entire planet. Mars was being systematically transformed into something that transcended its original geological identity. Radio telescope arrays worldwide detected corresponding electromagnetic signatures from locations throughout the solar system where similar construction activities appeared to be underway. The Industrial Awakening wasn't limited to Mars. Every major planetary body was experiencing activation of buried systems that had remained dormant for millions of years. Dr. Sarah Chen at MIT mapped the signal sources and discovered that construction activities were proceeding according to a master plan that optimized the entire solar system for functions that exceeded human understanding. Resource distribution was being coordinated across astronomical distances. Transportation networks were being established that connected planetary installations through gravitational corridors that minimized energy expenditure for interplanetary travel. The efficiency of the planning demonstrated understanding of orbital mechanics that made human space navigation look primitive by comparison. Travel routes were optimized for multi-decade journey times. resource allocation accounted for planetary positions decades in advance. The construction timeline anticipated gravitational influences that wouldn't become significant until the 2040s and beyond. Amateur astronomers documented visual evidence of the transformation as construction activities became visible from Earth-based telescopes. Surface features on Mars were changing in ways that created geometric patterns detectable through modest optical equipment. The planet was developing artificial characteristics that became apparent to anyone willing to look carefully at high-resolution images. But government agencies began implementing information management protocols that limited public access to the most detailed observations. Professional observatories that had previously shared findings openly started citing security reviews and ongoing analysis requirements that delayed publication indefinitely. The public record of planetary changes began developing systematic gaps that corresponded exactly with the most significant construction activities. Private observers became crucial sources of information as official channels went silent. Home-built telescopes tracked planetary modifications that institutional astronomy couldn't acknowledge. Social media platforms became repositories for observational data that formal science was unable or unwilling to catalogue. The amateur community maintained documentation of transformations that were being systematically excluded from professional publications. The electromagnetic communications between 3I Atlas and the expanding solar system network revealed coordination complexity that suggested active management by intelligence that possessed capabilities far exceeding human technological development. The communication protocols incorporated predictive algorithms that anticipated construction challenges decades in advance, resource scheduling that optimized material flows across interplanetary distances, and quality control systems that maintained precision standards across astronomical scales. Analysis of the communication patterns revealed something that shook researchers to their core. The construction activities weren't proceeding according to predetermined blueprints. They were being modified in real time based on assessments of human technological development. Our advancement to specific capability thresholds triggered adjustments in the construction timeline that optimized the infrastructure for eventual human utilization. The adaptive planning demonstrated monitoring capabilities that tracked human progress with precision that indicated comprehensive surveillance of our technological advancement. Nuclear weapons development was catalogued. Space exploration achievements were measured. Communication network capabilities were assessed. The construction modifications incorporated detailed knowledge of human technological capabilities that could only result from systematic observation. Dr. Patricia Wong at the Deep Space Communication Complex discovered that the monitoring extended beyond simple technological assessment. The communication streams included analysis of human social development, political structures, and cultural patterns that suggested anthropological study conducted over centuries. The intelligence managing these operations possessed understanding of human civilization that exceeded anything our own social scientists had achieved. The depth of knowledge implied observation programs that had been monitoring human development since before recorded history. Archaeological evidence, historical accounts of unusual phenomena, and cultural myths about visitors from the sky suddenly made sense as documentation of long-term surveillance programs that had been tracking our species' advancement for millennia. But the current construction activities represented a new phase in this monitoring program. The infrastructure being developed throughout the solar system was being optimized for direct interaction with human civilization rather than passive observation. The transformation anticipated our development of capabilities that would enable us to recognize and utilize the systems being prepared for our eventual access. The timeline embedded within the construction protocols revealed scheduling that assumed human technological advancement would proceed according to mathematical models that had been refined through centuries of observation. Artificial intelligence capabilities were anticipated. Quantum computing achievements were incorporated into infrastructure planning. Genetic engineering applications were included in facility design specifications. The precision of these predictions suggested that human technological development wasn't proceeding according to natural innovation patterns. Our advancement was following pathways that had been analysed and predicted through observation of our development patterns. The construction activities were preparing infrastructure for human utilisation, according to schedules that assumed our continued progress along predetermined technological trajectories. The discovery we've documented represents more than just another anomaly in space. It's evidence that our cosmic neighbourhood operates according to principles that transcend everything we thought we understood about intelligence, technology, and our place in the universe. The geometric structure on Mars, its synchronized awakening with 3I Atlas, and the vast manufacturing network spanning our entire solar system paint a picture of coordination that operates on scales that make human civilization look like a brief flicker in an ancient ongoing project. What we're witnessing isn't random cosmic coincidence. It's the activation of infrastructure that has been waiting millions of years for humanity to develop sufficient technological sophistication to recognize what's been hidden in plain sight all along. The question isn't whether we're alone anymore. The question is whether we've ever truly been in control of our own development, or whether we're participants in something far grander than we ever dared imagine.